USDA expects cash receipts from the sale of cattle and calves will fall in 2017 to their lowest level since 2011. The mark of $63 billion would be about 7% below last year and nearly 23% lower than the latest high in 2014. With that forecast in mind, we recently talked with Nebraska Extension educator Berger about how producers can manage costs. We began by asking for an update on the current economic environment.
So as we look from a cow-calf perspective, we've really jumped some in terms of price from that October-November low we saw, which has really been encouraging. But from a cow-calf sector standpoint, obviously things are more challenging than they were certainly in 14 and 15. And thinking about many management options as we look to the next year, as I work with producers, really encouraging them to put together cash flow, look at their balance sheet, look at an income statement, see where they're at, see what they project things are going to be. And then let's start maybe thinking about what are some strategies management-wise to work through some prices that are going to be certainly less than we enjoyed in 14 and 15.
What things stand out, Aaron?
So big things that jump out to me from the start is really looking at feed costs, paying attention to where we're at there. We've seen some reduction in terms of commodity prices, and so that's helped us from a cow-calf standpoint in terms of feed prices, but paying attention to what's going on there, seeing what opportunities are available. I think also as we think about the cow-calf sector, really paying attention to overheads and labor, and those are just a real challenge from a cow-calf enterprise standpoint. As we think about labor, overheads, we're really thinking about equipment and what we spend there, trying to think about how we might reduce those costs or obviously run more numbers to reduce our overhead costs per cow unit. And also I think as we think about what's going on in terms of mineral supplementation, looking at what are you providing in terms of what's in your feed and then what maybe do you need to purchase. Looking at the spring, thinking about bull cost, looking at bull cost per cow, thinking about realized reproductive rate. And when I say realized reproductive rate, I'm thinking about calves weaned per cow exposed. So we're looking at cows that were in the breeding pasture, looking at number of cows that were pregnant, looking at what our pregnancy rate was at the start of the calving season, and then looking at calf loss from the start of the calving season until we get those calves weaned. Paying attention to what's going on there, I really like to see those numbers in the mid to upper 80s. If we're not there, it's looking at why is that, where are some losses occurring, and can we do something strategically in terms of management to address that. As we also look at towards the breeding season, I think about ways to move late calving cows up. Cows that are on a decreasing plane in nutrition between calving and breeding are at a negative disadvantage, so we want to pay attention to that. Thinking about ways to move late calving cows up, and there's some good research done by Dr. Rick Funston looking at utilizing a seeder. 20 days after a cow has calved, we could put a seeder in, and for 7 days pull that seeder, give her a shot of prostaglandin, and then that can often jumpstart those cows and move them up. So really just thinking about a lot of little things that we can do. There's not real big things, but when we add those little things together, they can really have an impact as we think about improving profitability.
Can you talk more about how this current economic situation or environment differs from where we've been and how that might impact decision making?
Yeah, so as we think about just what's going on in terms of the marketplace, obviously fall of 2014, fall of 15, it was just a really good time to sell calves. We're looking at prices that are somewhere around half or a little more, a little less than that right now. I think we really want to be paying attention to the value of gain. So thinking about where calves are at in terms of their weight, thinking about if I'm going to grow these calves, what is my expected end weight and what do I get paid for those pounds that I put on. It's not just the price per pound, but it's what I get paid for those pounds is really important. And so thinking about your system, thinking of what opportunities you have, those are important as we evaluate options.
Are there other feed options that might be available due to prices?
So I think as we look right now in Nebraska, as we look at this spring, pasture rental rates are still pretty high compared to what they've been historically. Now, there's still tremendous demand for pasture. As I look at where all the people I visit with say pasture's hard to find. As we look at the value of ethanol co-products today and we look at some of the hay that's available, dry lotting cows, either as pairs or dry cows, is economically, in some cases, a very competitive option. Now, there's some management challenges that go with that. I think we've got some research and some things that can help us evaluate those, but those become competitive options in terms of current market conditions.